For thousands of years, the Native Americans lived in a world of love and peace. But how did their world turn so dark? How did Christopher Columbus, once hailed as a hero, become a villain in their eyes? And what were the final days of his life like? In this series, History of America, we will reveal the untold stories behind these questions. There's a legend about Columbus. During a feast, someone questioned his achievement of discovering the route to Asia, saying anyone else could have done it. Columbus responded by asking for an egg and challenged the guests to make it stand upright. After many failed attempts, he gently cracked the egg on the table and stood it upright with ease. Columbus then said that once a task is accomplished, it seems simple, but the credit belongs to the one who did it first. Whether this story is true or just a legend, it serves to highlight Columbus's cunning. Impressed by his persuasive skills, the Spanish rulers gave him a fleet of 17 ships and 1,300 men, including soldiers armed with swords, guns, and even bloodthirsty dogs. Columbus's second voyage to the New World was vastly different from his first, where he had only 90 men. But when Columbus returned to Hispaniola, he was shocked. The 49 men he had left behind were all dead. They had searched for gold, abducted women and children, and committed atrocities, leading the locals to rise up, kill them, and burn down their fort. In response, Columbus unleashed a reign of terror. His men scoured Hispaniola, looting villages and enslaving the people. However, by then, the Native Americans had realized the true intentions of the Europeans and had abandoned their villages, leaving the Spanish to find nothing but empty homes and no gold. In 1495, after years of failure, Columbus turned to slavery. He captured 1,500 men, women, and children, chaining them like animals. 500 of the strongest were sent to Spain, but many died en route, unable to survive the harsh conditions. Those who lived were sold in markets, but they, too, perished quickly, unable to withstand the European climate. Desperate for gold, Columbus imposed brutal demands on the Native Americans, forcing men as young as 14 to deliver a set amount of gold every 3 months. Those who failed were mutilated or killed. The cruelty intensified as entire communities were decimated by forced labor, starvation, and disease. The Spaniards' relentless quest for gold and slaves left a once thriving land barren and lifeless. The atrocities committed by Columbus and his men were so severe that even Spanish chroniclers were horrified. They wrote of unimaginable barbarities that shook them to the core. The Spanish conquerors, now more like sadistic overlords, even used Native Americans as human beasts of burden, treating them with utter disdain. Some Native Americans chose suicide over subjugation, using poison from the cassava plant. Mothers poisoned their children to spare them from the cruelty of the Spaniards. The suffering was immense, and in the end, Hispaniola was left desolate. Columbus, the man responsible for this carnage, eventually faced the consequences of his actions. The Spanish crown received numerous complaints against him, and he was removed from his position as governor. Although he managed to secure one final voyage, his time as a powerful figure had ended. Columbus spent his last days in Spain, deluded and desperate, still clinging to the belief that he had found a new route to Asia. While Columbus died in obscurity, the legacy of his brutality lived on. Within 21 years of his arrival, the indigenous population of Hispaniola had been wiped out. Millions had perished due to violence, disease, and despair. The devastation was on a scale so immense that it was said to be 50 times worse than the bombing of Hiroshima. After Columbus's death, the Spanish Empire continued its conquests, leading to the annihilation of entire civilizations in the New World. The tragic history of the Native Americans serves as a grim reminder of the horrors of colonization. But Columbus's story is just the beginning. The next chapter of History of America will explore the rise and fall of the Aztec Empire, a powerful civilization that stood as the last obstacle to Spanish domination in the Americas. How did they resist, and what led to their ultimate downfall? Click here to find out.